Today on episode 128 of Rail Talk, no one has ever tried harder to get to Arkansas, but it worked out for me in the end. Unfortunately, FanDuel TV is shutting down, and we react to that. Plus, we welcome Gabby Gaudet to preview the upcoming Keeneland spring meet and do our supplemental draft for the Derby contest, the Mage Rage Derby contest. I'm Joe Bianca. I'm an ownership advisor at West Point Thoroughbreds, and it's a packed show. Lots going on, John. So we had to put this in the open. We were going to put it in the open anyway to pat ourselves on the back, but we especially had to do it this week. We have reached 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, and per our tradition, Sai is here to celebrate with us. Aren't you stoked for us, Sai? Let's go, John. Shout out to the whole team, 30,000 and growing on YouTube.
Jonathan Green, general manager of DJ Stable. And Joe, I couldn't be prouder of our group, from Patty to Julia to Nathan to you and me. And of course, Cy Dog being, the official mascot of our show. But 30,000 people that are watching and listening. And I'm nervous now.
We haven't chased them away yet. We'll try. The opinions expressed on Rail Talk are those of hosts Joe Bianca and Jon Green and do not reflect those of anybody we work with or work for. It was a phenomenal weekend of racing. We had the Florida Derby. We had the Arkansas Derby, as we mentioned last week, the first of two major Derby prep cards, or weekends rather, and we'll look forward to the second of the two this weekend with the Bluegrass and the Wood in just a little bit. But we're going to talk about me for a little bit because that's what the people want, Joe by the barrelful. And I did have a pretty eventful time getting down to Hot Springs and Oaklawn for the Fantasy Stakes on Friday. Now, John, I never do this. I never do the whole Karen thing where I get on social media or my media and yell about companies wronging us. But I got a bone to pick with American Airlines. And it ain't just from this time. My beef with American goes back a long time to Meg and I's honeymoon. So we had a honeymoon trip booked to Santorini, Greece. And it's already a long-ass way to get there. I'm sure you know. It's like an 11-hour flight to Athens and then like a little puddle jumper to Santorini. And then like a couple weeks before our trip, they canceled our flight to Athens and made us go to Chicago for a 5-hour layover. Wow. And then fly from Chicago to Athens.
Well, so Chicago is known as the Athens of America, Joe. I mean,
it's true, but it's also 3 hours out of the way.
Wrong direction.
When I'm already taking an 11-hour flight, and they gave us just under the amount of miles as a thank you and an apology that it would take to get into the lounge. It's like 7,500 miles. They give us 7,300 miles.
Oh, that was
an apology. Like, I'd rather you give me nothing. Like. That's a real loogie in the face. And then, of course, I'm not just telling you that as a random gripe. American was the one that canceled my direct flight to Little Rock on Thursday, and they didn't do it until the morning of. No explanation, no rebooking, none of that. So I go through the TSA line. It was 2 hours to get through TSA, dude. And thankfully everybody was pretty civilized about it. Like nobody was, throwing feces or fighting or, cursing or anything that you might expect from people having to schlep through a 2-hour airport line. But nevertheless, it was an ordeal. I just got in time to catch my flight and had to do a changeover in Chicago. And I should have taken a hint from last time, the Chicago ordeal. I get there, and it's a little windy and rainy, and it was a 14-hour delay. So we were supposed to take off Thursday night at 7, got rescheduled to 8:30 the next morning. We get on the plane, and they go, oh, there's like a low hydraulic issue or something. Everybody's got to get off the plane. And, John, I tell you, I was this close to being like, fuck this, and looking at New York City flights to go home. Thankfully, I persevered. Next flight took off in like an hour, and we got to see Counting Stars absolutely cruise in the Fantasy Stakes and punch her ticket to the Kentucky Oaks, where she'll probably be top 3 choice, I would think, at worst. And just want to give a shout out to all the West Point partners who were there. It was a great time, great group of people. And, so many of them, it's their first horse, which is like, how could you strike gold any more than this? Being your first horse or your first horse to race is a Kentucky Oaks filly. And I love that now. It's not to say that she couldn't throw in a stinker on Oaks Day, John, but now she's put together 2 really strong races in a row. She got a 92 buyer. It's right up there with the top figures of the 3-year-old fillies in this class. And, long way to go, less than 5 weeks until Oaks Day. And, things happen, but John, we're feeling pretty good about our chances, and I know that you've got a potential Oaks filly coming this Friday as well. What are your thoughts on?
I appreciate the lead in, but let's talk about Counting Stars, who did punch your ticket to the Oaks, and that to me that's the bigger story, is that your filly Counting Stars is on her way to the Kentucky Oaks, which is one of the most.
Don't fly American, Counting Stars, please.
It's one of the most important filly races of the year. I mean, the Oaks is basically a resume stamper, where if you win that, then you are in the lead for the Eclipse Award. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful thing for you guys. I'm glad that you got to be there and that you got to feel all the excitement, everything like that. Although, Joe, I will say that I was glad to see that they mic'd you up. They mic'd you up before the race, and they mic'd up Griffin Johnson before the race. And you were typically Joe Cool, in it, where if you haven't seen the clip, I don't know if we're going to be able to show it here, but if you haven't seen the clip, it's worth going on and watching, because the horse is in front by 4 or 5 lengths, and you're like sitting back going, yeah, come on. And the thing you said over and over again is, don't fall off. And I'm going, oh my God, that's when you know that you're like just praying for to hit the wire, because you're like, please just stay on. Meanwhile, they mic'd Griffin Johnson, who I don't know if you've heard of, but he is an international sensation.
That's
Griffin
right.
Johnson. And he is
the Griffin Johnson.
He is yelling and screaming. He's so excited. He doesn't own any part of the horse, but he is so excited about the fact that West Point and everyone involved, the partnership there, is getting a chance to be in the Oaks, that he's screaming from the rafters how excited he is. And you're like, don't fall off.
I mean, listen, I gotta save my rooting, because like if that were like a nose to nose dogfight in the stretch, you would have heard me whooping and hollering. But I think it's just from my jaded days as a horse player. Like nothing is official until they hit the wire, dude. Like, and so that's why that's what I say. Like if I bet a horse and the horse is ahead by 10, I'm like, please don't fall off the horse.
It was
like,
great. I wish that we could show the clips side by side, because it is exactly the way that like a hardened, jaded, and to use the exact right adjective, and negative, horseman on the left in Joe, like, please don't whatever you do, don't trip, don't fall, and exactly. And Griffin be like, oh my God, we're gonna it still cracks me up. Anyway, rightfully so. Counting Stars, won so impressively, and I'm so happy for you guys. And Mark's other horse in there, one of 2 other horses in their Search Party, also, ran a very solid second place. Joe, they were 15 lengths up on the 3rd place horse. That's how far in front, Counting Stars was like by 5 lengths over Search Party, and Search Party was 9+ lengths over the 3rd place horse, in there. And I think it's great that you won't have to worry about points. You won, you're going, you punch your ticket, you're going in. Because there were only 5 horses in the race, they got reduced points, right? Because of that. So
75%. So she got 75 instead of 100.
But she's definitely, because anything over 50 really is like a guarantee at this point. So she's definitely going there. Search Party, I think, has to hold her breath and wait and see whether or not she's actually going to get in, depending on how things play out this weekend. But I'm so happy for you guys to have, not only be in the field of 14 for the Kentucky Oaks, but like you said, you're going to have, depending on how Zany runs this weekend, you're going to arguably have one of the favorites in the race.
Yeah, no, for sure. And, we were waiting for the breakout performance from the 3-year-old fillies this weekend. I think we got 2.
Yeah.
I think Counting Stars and I think Prom Queen in the Devona Dale at Gulfstream. Those 2 were very, very impressive. As I mentioned, Counting Stars got a 92 buyer. Prom Queen got a 92. Probably going to take like something in the low to mid 90s to win the Oaks. So they went to the head of the class. And yeah, it's just I love this filly so much. You've heard me talk about her, and you've heard me like post on social media about her. Just fell in love with her at the sale, and I try not to do that, honestly, like before we buy, because there's so many horses that'll be on the short list, and I'll be like, oh God, I hope we get this horse. And then a lot of times they'll get knocked off, or we'll get outbid or something. And she was one of the ones that like I really planted my flag on, and bought for $150,000 from the OBS April sale, which is a bargain. And it's interesting because we got Reagan's Honor running in the Bluegrass this Saturday. He's got to run 1-2 to get in the Derby, but if he does, we'll have a Derby horse and an Oaks horse by Honor AP.
Right.
So shout out to Lane's End and Honor AP, very underrated stallion. Might not have like a ton of foals, but a lot of them can run. I think he's a bargain right now. But yeah, it was one of those things where it was like, I get to the track at like 2:30 and I'm like, please have your running shoes on today. Like I just think all that way for her to not show up. And also I'm very happy for Francisco Arrieta. Yeah. Because here's a guy who did it, who's done this the hard way. I remember when he was riding in New York and he was like a 2 or 3% rider, and he did the smart thing that I think a lot of journeyman jockeys should do is he left and he went to a smaller track. He built up his business at Turf Paradise. And then I think he was at Canterbury for a while, building up his business there. And then eventually got to Oaklawn, and now he's leading rider there. And I love that he's got a big horse now finally too, because I think it's been a couple of years now where people realize that he can really ride. And he did a great job in that race because he could have taken back because the 4 taken by the wind was coming up to his outside going into the first turn. And I think our plan was more to sit and have Empath go head to head with Sticker Shock, but Sticker Shock didn't break. Yeah. And so he just let her do her thing, got her in the clear air, tracking from second, took the lead early on the turn. And we're all kind of still holding our breath because it's like, she's built good before until she hasn't, but this time she put it away. So that was just awesome day. And I want to, before we move on to some of the other results, I do want to give a major hat tip to everybody from Oaklawn. And, John, you experienced this last year when we were there for Sandman winning. It's all class at Oaklawn, the way they treat the owners and the fans and the horsemen and everybody. Like, we went up to the boardroom for a toast. Louis Sella gave a great speech. Everybody's, all these people from Oaklawn like introduced themselves, tell us how happy they were for us. And, John, it's gratifying and refreshing to be, and we're going to talk to Gabby Gaudet in a little bit. Keeneland's like this too. Yeah. To be at a place where they are 100% dedicated to the racetrack and to the horses. Like that is their core business. And we see so many times with some of the other, companies that own these racetracks, racing is an afterthought at best and probably a nuisance at worst to some of these bigger companies. That's the opposite of what it is at Oaklawn. And, they just make you feel so welcome and so valued. And I know you would agree with that, John.
No question about it. And last year was the first year that I had ever gone out to Oaklawn. And Mark Cassidy, so we've been in the business for 40 years, and last year was the second year we ever had horses stabled at Oaklawn. And Mark Cassidy's been in the business even longer, and it was like the third year that he's ever had horses there. And there's a reason why. There's a reason why we've made that our destination stop, for dirt horses, obviously, in the wintertime. And it's exactly what you said. The Sella family and Lewis, set the tone in a positive way. And it just permeates to every level of every employee and representative of Oaklawn. I would love to have him on the show. He's actually going to be inducted into the Arkansas Sports Hall of Fame. Louis Sella, and for good reason. I mean, they live and breathe Arkansas sports. Joe, there's no turnstiles at Oaklawn, so you can't really know exactly how many people were there. But there's there's estimates that there were 50 to 70,000 people who actually set foot at Oaklawn last weekend to watch the races, and that's just unheard of. I mean, around here for New Jersey racing, for the Haskell, you'll get 40 or 50,000 maybe. But like this is probably their most important Saturday. But I'll guarantee you that next week when we run Nitrogen out there, there's going to be 40,000 people there as well.
Are you guys going?
We are going to go. Yeah, we're going to fly out to Hot Springs, not on American. And then we're going to fly from there actually down to Ocala to the 2-year-old sale. Nice. So we're gonna do that. Len is eschewing the last couple of days of tax season because basically if you don't have your taxes in, and this will morph into our commercial, but if you don't have your tax information in by the 10th or 11th of April, you're going on extension. And finally, Len has accepted the fate of, I can't undo somebody if it's just going to be done that late. We're not doing it. It's justice. So we're going to kick it off into extension land. And that way he can come and watch the apple blossom and also, go to the April OBS sale. So it should be a really fun exacta box of horse racing for us.
Yeah, no, that's great. And wish you guys all the best of luck. I'm 2 for 2 now, baby, at Oaklawn. I've been there 2 times and won $2 million+ races. So if you're worried about a horse you got running at Oaklawn, you're nervous, just put me on your plane. I'll come down for a nominal fee and help you win that big race. It wasn't just about me and Counting Stars this past weekend. There were a bunch of other very, very important races and impressive performances. So we'll touch on those for a moment. I thought Renegade's win in the Arkansas Derby was the most visually impressive 3-year-old race I've seen thus far. Now, he got a 98 buyer. Commandment got a 100 just getting up on the wire in the Florida Derby. So maybe it was a little bit of an illusion in that the Arkansas Derby horses weren't quite as good as the Florida Derby horses. And if Commandment were in the Arkansas Derby, he would have been just as impressive. But I don't know, man. That turn of foot that Renegade showed was mind-blowing, because he had to wind up all the way wide on the turn, had to pass a lot of horses, and just once he passed Silent Tactic at the 8th pole, the race was all over. And I thought that was incredibly impressive. You know, shout out to frenemy of the show, Mike Rapoli. He and the Lows have a really nice horse here, and he's already making jokes about like the potential scratch of the horse during Derby week. And we hope that doesn't happen again.
Right.
Because it does look like a very deep class and a very, very interesting betting race. Commandment, like I said, just got up to tag the Puma in the Florida Derby. The Puma is very interesting to me, and I don't want to like spoil our upcoming supplement draft, but good chance he'll be my first pick, because he's one of those horses that's like not big flashy connections, like not Baffert or Chad Brown or whoever, but just shows up every single time. And this was off a 3 weeks rest, coming back from running very hard in the Tampa Bay Derby, comes back, runs another cracker in the Florida Derby, and just gets tagged on the wire, got that 100 buyer. He is one of those horses that I think could get lost a little bit on the board on Derby Day and end up like 15, 20 to 1. So I'm very interested in him. As I mentioned, Prom Queen, I thought very visually impressive in the Gulfstream Oaks. I said the Devona Dale before, but Quality Road, daughter, lightly raced, 2 straight blowout wins. She's one to keep an eye on for the first Friday in May. John, was there anything else that stuck out to you from the weekend?
No, Joe, honestly, I think you covered it all. I mean, Prom Queen, you got to figure a Quality Road out of a Tappet mare. She's only going to get better as the races go further. And we mentioned that last week, that she was, really a filly to watch in the Gulfstream Park Oaks. I think we're going to look back at the Oaks and say that it wasn't as tough of a division as some of these other races, in my opinion. But that takes nothing away from her as far as, breaking her maiden last time out on a speed favoring racetrack, went against the bias, and then won very impressively in the Oaks. I was a little disappointed with Chief Wallaby. I thought that he would have put in a better race than he did. He did run third, and he wasn't that far away from Commandment or the Puma. So maybe with a little bit of racing luck, he'll be a horse that I think personally he'll be the one that's going to be kind of overlooked when it comes to the 20 horse field in the Derby. And I thought, Silent Tactic, for the first time in his life, hadn't taken that next step forward. Every other race from the time that he finished second in the Gray, he's been improving every single time. And you would think that a Tacitus out of a gun runner mare, that the distance, the 1 1/8, wouldn't be an issue. And maybe just, that day, Renegade was just so much better that it almost didn't matter unless Silent Tactic ran, a lifetime best, career best. He wasn't going to beat Renegade. But I think overall, those are the horses that we talked about. Nearly maybe bounced, Joe. Do you think nearly bounced as far as that race goes? Because he was 8 weeks between races and just didn't have that impressive turn of foot that he did when he crushed everybody in the Holy Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I figured you'd give him 8 weeks off to avoid the bounce. And
right.
then, if it happens anyway, I don't know that you can call it a bounce or a regression. Yeah, it just goes to show you how quickly things can change on the Derby trail, because it wasn't that long ago that we thought he was the top dog. And now he's like on the bubble. He probably is not going to get in. And I thought he had no excuse in that race. I thought Chief Wallaby ran another really good race to be third. He's obviously a contender, but spinning it forward for this coming weekend, it's going to be a big one. Obviously, Keeneland's opening up. I'll let you guys talk a little bit about the Ashland, but they got 3 graded stakes on Friday at Keeneland, and the purses are just awesome as always. $400K for the Beaumont, $600,000 for the Transylvania, and $750 for the Ashland. And then obviously we got Bluegrass Day on Saturday as well. And I'll be out at Aqueduct on Saturday for the last Wood Memorial card.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know, yeah, and it's a deep field. Just quick thorn in my side. Like Dave, go look at the replies to Dave Grenning's tweet of the Woodfield where he's posting like the post positions and the horses, and look at the whining from the people in the comments about like what a bad field it is. There's 13 horses in the race. Right. If it was a higher quality field and a 6-horse field, you'd be fucking complaining about that. I'm just so tired of like, no matter what, just people whining in the replies. It's like, it's a 13-horse field. Yeah, maybe there's no superstars for the Derby, but it's a great betting race, and it's the last Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. Like, just stop the reflexive complaining. It drives me crazy. So yeah, I'll be out there for that, for the Carter. Last big day of racing really at Aqueduct, and it looks like the weather's gonna be nice, 70 degrees and sunny. It finally feels like spring here in New York City. So I'm very excited for that. But John, I want you to talk about French Friction in the Ashland, because this is a step up for her. She's stretching out from 6 to a mile and a 16th. Obviously has a lot of talent. Tell me your thought process in choosing the Ashland, and what you think her Oaks prospects are.
Yeah, we're going to see whether or not she can handle going 2 turns, Joe. And for us, it's a big enough question of, can she handle the distance? We knew that you had Counting Stars, and Mark had 2 other fillies that he was pointing for the race at Oaklawn. We actually wanted to run in the Ashland because it's near and dear to our hearts. It was the first Grade 1 win we ever earned as a racing operation with Do It With Style back in '91. That's how long ago it was. And we knew it was going to be kind of a smallish field, and it's a Grade 1. So for a filly, that we, potentially could keep into our broodmare band, that's what we were looking at, was the G1 over the G2. But we also wanted to give her an extra week between races, because we are, stepping her up from 3/4 to 3/4 to now 8.5 furlongs, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is at this stage of their careers. We knew we were going to run against our homebred Zany. They've been talking, Rapoli's group have been talking about running that undefeated daughter of American Pharaoh since the Suncoast. That they've been saying that this is the race they're going to shoot for. What I was surprised to see is Percy's Bar come in, a very astute $52,000 purchase as a yearling, and all she's done is finish second in the spin away to Tommy Joe, when Tommy Joe was like at Tommy Joe's top of her racing career. She got DQ'd after winning the Alcibiades, and then broke really badly in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile filly and got bumped and finished 3rd. Still got Grade 1 placing in the Breeders' Cup, but nobody has seen her since October 31st of last year. So she's off for 5+ months, and all she's done, Joe, is bulleted 5 out of her last 6 breezes. So I got to believe that she's going to be fresh. She's going to be full of starch and ready to just break out and be, breathing smoke out of the gate for the Ashland Stakes. So my guess is that we're probably going to be sitting off of her, or the 2 of us are going to go out there, or somebody's going to be smart enough to say, you go and I'll flank you accordingly. But, to me, Joe, there are, to your point before, there are just as many good horses in the Ashland as in the Wood. The only difference is there's only 7 in the Ashland. So there's only like 3 horses where you scratch your head and say, are they there for the free lunch, as opposed to the Wood, where maybe you say that for 5 or 6 horses in there. But there's legitimately, 3 horses, maybe 4 horses in here that I would say whoever finishes first or second would be very good representatives in the Oaks. Interestingly enough, that's really what you have to do in the Ashland, is finish first or second. First guarantees you a spot in the starting gate for the Oaks. Second may or may not, depending on how a couple of these other prep races go this weekend. So it would be interesting to see, where everyone's talking about Zany being the favorite in the Oaks. unless she wins the Ashland, there's no guarantee she's going to run in the Oaks.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And yeah, it is one of those divisions that, I said about the Colts, but things can change very quickly with the 3-year-old fillies as well. And I wish you guys good luck. I feel like you're going to have to shake away from Omaha Bay or take back, because it's just, I think it's tough having the speed directly to your outside.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a decision that Christian Torres is going to have to make going into that first turn.
No, I think you're right, and really it depends. Percy's Bar, I think, is going to be. I think I called it Percy's Bay before, so excuse me if I did. But Percy's Bar is the homebred of Brereton Jones that I think is going to show some speed. Also, I like the fact, for that exact reason, I like the fact that we're flanked on the outside of Percy's Bar, but you can say the same thing for Omaha Bay, who is on the outside of us. So I think it's going to be a little bit of a chess match going into that first turn as to who breaks the best and what's going on and everything like that. Joe, I was also looking at the Santa Anita Derby as far as races that are coming up for this weekend, and that is a prep race that is a grade 1 Santa Anita Derby, and is a stepping stone for the Kentucky Derby. But as far as our contest goes, none of us picked any horse that is in the Santa Anita Derby. I don't know if that's an indictment of what schmucks we are, or just the fact that it's not a great race. What do you think?
I think it could definitely be both. Like
both things can be true.
This is a general rule. The schmuck thing is always a possibility.
Right.
But yeah, I think it's just unfortunately kind of the way that things have been going at Santa Anita. And we didn't talk about it on the show, but Baffert mentioned that he's going to have a string at Churchill this spring, which I don't know. It could be like people are like, oh, that's horrible for California racing. Perhaps because he does have a lot of stock out there and they're already, dealing with like field size issues. But I think a lot of people have emigrated away from California because they're tired of running against 3 Bafferts in every race. So I don't know, like it might even out, but yeah, I mean, Cherokee Nation, who just broke his maiden by 10 lengths, got a 100 buyer. Maybe he's favored in that race. Although, So Happy's going to take some money and Potente as well. But yeah, it didn't even really register for me as like a major Derby prep.
Right.
But you never know. The California horses can jump up and surprise you. One other thing I did want to mention that I just noticed, and this is a shout out to our boy Andrew Stewart, who's going to be on a little bit later for the supplemental draft. He sends us the pedigrees every week. So if you watch the show and you see the pedigrees rolling up the screen when we're talking about horses, that's always courtesy of Arian Pedigrees. You can check them out at arion.co.nz. Excellent pedigree database, best in the business. But one thing I noticed, he sent us the pedigrees for Counting Stars, Prom Queen, Commandment, and Renegade. So all of the major 3-year-old colt and 3-year-old filly winners of the weekend. Counting Stars is the first foal out of Painter by Numbers, who, by the way, was another West Point horse. Prom Queen is the second foal out of Miss Bling Bling. Commandment is the second foal out of Sippican Harbor, who was a Grade 1 winner. And Renegade is the first foal out of Spices Nice, who was a really good horse for Todd Pletcher in the Lows. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, obviously the dams could all run, but it's always a crapshoot, and always, it's up in the air whether or not they're going to be good producers. So I thought it was interesting to see all 4 winners from this weekend were either the first or the second foal from their dam. Rail Talk is sponsored by Epic Insurance Brokers, one of the nation's top retail insurance brokers, providing expertise across key lines of insurance like property and casualty, employee benefits, and unique specialty insurance. Our buddy, our guy, our brother, Chris Moore is the lead of Epic's equine specialty practice. As I mentioned, you see him all over the place on the backstretch at the sales. He owns, he breeds, he lives and breathes this business, and that's someone you want in charge of anything that has to do with money or coverage in this funky business that we love so much. A lot of equine mortality policies renew around yearling sales time, so a lot of you are probably halfway through your policy. Halfway is a great time to hit up Chris, review your plan, making sure it works the way you need to and you need it to. And the 2-year-old sales are coming up. How is buying or selling horses there going to impact your policy? Chris and the folks at Epic are the ones to lead you through that discussion and that strategy. If you give Chris a call or shoot him a text at 317-650-4519, or if you see him at the sale, Go see him in person. He'll buy you a Corona. I can almost guarantee it. It's the Joe Bianca almost guarantee that someone else will buy you a drink. But that's just the kind of guy that Chris Moore is. We appreciate him and the team at Epic. So yeah, just reach out, set something up, go chat, and get that insurance mess in order. And that leads us to this week's
Epic Performance of the Week.
Booming voiceover guy all the way from Dubai for this week's Epic Performance of the Week. There was so much domestic racing that we didn't even get to talk about this in our racing recap segment. But the Dubai World Cup card was on Saturday, and there were a bunch of great racing. Ombudsman was really impressive in the Shima Classic. There was an upset in the Golden Shaheen. Dark Saffron, who had won it before, won it 23-1. But obviously the centerpiece was the $12 million Dubai World Cup. And Forever Young was upset. We had talked about it recently that he was the best horse in the world, and certainly he's still up there. But magnitude with the upset for America of Forever Young. Shout out to Jose Ortiz. Huge win for him. Steve Asmussen, Ron Winchell, and a horse that, we thought was a nice American handicap horse. But I don't know that I thought that he was the class to take it to Forever Young, at least not yet. Very impressive, great ride, dug in gamely in the stretch. And, John, thoughts on Magnitude's upset?
It was just an incredible race overall, and I'm pleased that I got to watch it live, and just see the actual mano a mano battle going on in that race. And look, Forever Young has been an extraordinary international story. We talked to our friend Dan Torchman about when he went overseas, and just the fascination that people have with Forever Young. Obviously, he came here and brought home a couple of Eclipse Awards as well, and the ownership group couldn't have been more impressive. I mean, they were so humble and they felt privileged to be there. It was just so wonderful and warming to see them go home with some of the most important hardware that our industry has to offer. And for a horse like Magnitude to come in and not on his home court and dig in and do what he did, Joe, was just super impressive. It doesn't surprise me anymore what Not This Time foals are doing, because they are just winning races literally worldwide.
Rail Talk is sponsored by the Green Group, the #1 accounting firm in the horse business. No other CPA firm knows the horse industry like they do. Len and DJ have over 200 horses. They won over 2,600 races, running in grade ones all over the place. So they know the business inside and out. And the Green Group is proof of that. They have close to 1,000 clients in the horse business because they make them money and save them taxes. I can't tell you how many West Point partners I've heard that have, reached out to Len and the Green Group and been super grateful for their help. And, obviously grateful for me for introducing them to the Green Group, the real MVP. But no, just kidding. The real MVP is obviously Len. And John mentions, as John mentions, it's last call right now for tax returns for 2025. If you don't get them in very, very, very soon, like right when you hear this, you're going to have to file an extension. So just reach out to Len, let him, ask him what the timeline is. There's so many people that have been helped by him and his expertise and his team's expertise to save them money and make this a more navigable game, which sometimes can prove to be a little bit of a labyrinth on the tax front. But you got to give him a call. What's that number, Michael Agresta?
732-634-5100.
Right. Or go to greenco.com. But you don't have to take it from me. Take it from yet another valued Green Group customer and a woman who had Counting Stars on her short list last year. She knows how to pick them at the sales. Lauren Carlisle of Black Dog Bloodstock.
My name is Lauren Carlisle. I have a bloodstock company and I help DJ Stable pick out horses at the sales, 2-year-olds and yearlings. Meeting Lynn and getting to know him the last 2 years has been one of the greatest things that's happened to me in the last 2 years. Efficiency, knowledge, everyone I've worked with at the firm, Carlene, Jack, Donna, everybody has been very professional, very knowledgeable, makes me feel very comfortable. I don't ask stupid questions. They don't make me feel like I ask stupid questions about my taxes. And you can tell that they care and they're very thorough with the way that they do their work. So I appreciate that. Since they understand the horse business, I can tell them, parts that I'm involved with and not really have to explain what that is in detail because they already know everything about it. And so they know the avenues on the tax side and how to save money, and maybe I have a write-off I'm not aware of, and very easy to do that with them since they're very knowledgeable. I would absolutely recommend the Green Group 100%. I love everybody that works there that I've worked with, so absolutely.
Thank you, Lauren, and thank you for passing me in the contest and making me last once again. But we appreciate you, and we appreciate that kind of partnership between some of our favorite people in the business, Lauren and Len and the Green Group. So call them up, 732-634-5100, or go to greenco.com. Do it now. Otherwise, you'll have to wait until October to get those taxes in. But either way, you should be using Len and the Green Group. So there was some major bad news over the weekend, and it's that FanDuel TV, which obviously started as TVG in 1999, is going to be phased out over the next 20 months. And FanDuel, I'm quoting from the Pollock Report story here, FanDuel TV employees learned during a company-wide town hall video meeting that more than 100 jobs will be eliminated by the end of November 2026. FanDuel CEO Amy Howe said continuation of the network did not align with the company's long-term strategy, which I just always hate that you can't talk to people like humans. It's always got to be some corporate speak of why you're upending all these people's lives. Already one of the leading sports betting companies in the U.S., FanDuel entered the prediction market arena in December 2025. FanDuel TV will reduce its workforce by about 60% at the end of June after honoring commitments to Keeneland and Triple Crown coverage. The remaining employees will continue through the end of November. Then next year, they will continue to broadcast racing. There will just be no in-studio presence, no commentary. It'll basically just be streaming. And this is obviously very, very serious, and it doesn't bode well for racing. It's a major loss. And, I just first of all think of all the people that we know at FanDuel TV that are going to be affected by this, and obviously no fault of their own. They do a great job. They put on a great broadcast. They're people who love this industry inside and out. It's just like some corporate bullshit where, like, as soon as FanDuel bought TVG, I was worried that something like this might happen one day, because, the same way I talk about how track operators have to have an interest in racing as a core product, so too with broadcasting companies. And it just clearly, FanDuel now is getting outflanked by Kalshi and Polymarket and all sorts of evil shit like that they got to match. They got to match the evilness of the prediction markets. And unfortunately, that leaves the racing product on the cutting room floor. John, there's a lot to say about this. I'm curious about your kind of top line and overall thoughts before we get into the details.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's a natural progression of mass media. The radio signal, has been lapped now by satellite radio. You look at the magazines and how many, hundreds and hundreds of different magazines were around, at least when I was growing up, and even into, I think, your early education. And we were both journalism majors, and the idea was that we were going to write for a major publication, and how they, shrunk not only in number of jobs, but also just number of publications that are out there. And eventually they got picked up, and, news promotion still needs to be part of what goes on a daily basis in our lives. So it's unfortunate. It's a major blow to the industry that FanDuel has decided to phase out of horse racing. I'm hoping that it's going to get picked up, in other opportunities. You hope that Fox Sports or RTN or somebody else picks up the slack if they feel like that there's an opportunity to promote and make money. But, at the end of the day, Joe, when our content isn't shown on a major broadcasting network or publication, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt us because, there's going to be an industry impact that people aren't going to be watching our products anymore. Not going to be watching races anymore. And even, for the hardcore fan, that's not a big deal because they'll find a way to find it on streaming or some other outlet. But for the introductory fan or the casual fan, now really the only time they're ever going to be able to watch our races are going to be the Triple Crown races and the Breeders' Cup. And even, remember the Breeders' Cup races got decimated with their scheduling, due to football, to the college football. So, we were definitely taking a back seat to other sports on our major days, so that's really tough. It's I'm not going to say it's a death knell, but it's definitely a hurtful blow because we need to have our content out there for people to see. And I mean, Joe, it wasn't that long ago where like we were holding our breath, watching horses run around the oval and hoping that they all made it back. We've overcome that issue now. And we have a product that certainly is worthy of having people watch and wager on and be interested in. But, it stinks when you get a major, vehicle like FanDuel. And really they are the prominent and preeminent, group that shows racing on a daily basis, that it's not going to be there anymore. From a talent standpoint, I feel for all the people that are involved, the camera people, the production crew, the producers, obviously the on-air talent. They will find other landing spots. But you hear it in people that live through TVG and FanDuel, and it's a community, it's a family, and they spend a lot of hours on the road and in production meetings doing things together, and now that's all going to be decimated. It's all going to be blown apart, and it comes down to the almighty corporate dollar again as to why this is happening. So it stinks, and we can kind of if you can make light of a situation, Joe, in the sense that like there's other streaming channels and other 24/7 channels that are out there that, the Cowboy Channel is a channel. Okay. If you can believe it. Baby's First TV that only shows babies and soft colors and sounds, and muted sounds.
My favorite channel.
What's that?
It's my favorite channel.
Exactly. That's in, that's always, on. There's a teacup animal channel, Joe. There's a teacup animal channel, and we're not going to have a channel anymore where you can go and watch teacup pigs and teacup other animals on 24/7. There's an aquarium channel, for God's sake, where if you want to just watch fish swim at some of the major aquariums worldwide, and yet we're not going to have a channel anymore. That's the sad thing about it.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And this is another scenario where it's like, yeah, it's easy for me to spend other people's money, but it's like, this is a scenario where it would help to have some of like the very, well-off people in this business put their heads together, put some capital together and figure out how to do this. Because again, it's like you need people in charge who are dedicated to racing. Otherwise, they're not going to care, and they're going to pull up stakes at the first possible opportunity. We see it with track operators. We see it now with broadcasters. And we just have to have people that have a passion and a dedication to the game in charge when it comes to broadcasting our sport. And I got to say, like, it's especially devastating because without this, it's so fragmented. Yeah. Like, I cannot tell you how many times even with FanDuel, even when FanDuel was on, how many times I had like a West Point partner ask me like, how do I watch this race? And I got to like read a freaking Ouija board to figure out like how to direct them to watch the race. It's like, well, you could stream it on this ADW or that platform or this website, or if that's not working there, then go to and it's just like, it's one of those things where I want to shout out a West Point client and buddy of mine, David, who I was at the track on Sunday with, and he's a fan of the show. He's from Australia, and he's showing me like the Australian streaming channels that they have, and it's like all in one app, and there's free data, and it's HD, and they got commentary, and they switch from that one to that one seamlessly. It's like it was like getting a dispatch from another planet, honestly, when it comes to the way our signals are managed and distributed here in this country. And it's just, it's really unfortunate. And I wish that we kind of, like, as great as the organization was to, defeat decoupling in Florida, and now we're organizing around aftercare, like that is awesome.
Yep.
But in terms of broadcasting the game, we need that kind of organization and innovation as well, especially now. And like the best thing you could do is sign up for an ADW so you can stream the races. But it's like, do I really want to support First and sign up for Express Bet or whatever it is now? Do I really want to support Churchill Downs and sign up for Twin Spires? Like, I would suggest signing up for Naira Bets, because at least they have like a dedication to the game that the other ones don't seem to. And I do think it's Fox Sports is the one to need to jump in and expand the racing product, because, you know, even though that's a corporation, they've greenlit a lot more racing coverage in the last couple of years. And I think that that's a credit to the people at Naira for lobbying and for doing such a great job on TV, because at least on the weekends now we have a lot more coverage than we used to. So that's the natural, you know, stand-in or successor, I would think. But again, like with a corporate overlord, I don't know like how much programming they're truly going to be willing to dedicate to the sport. But it's we're kind of up shit's creek now, John, because we have already had such an issue unifying our coverage and having, you know, one place for people to go to watch the races.
Yeah, and that's really the first go-to, you know, is where can I see your product? Where can I see the races? Where can I see what's going on? And and say what you want about the on-air talent. And I know people, you know, would go apeshit over, oh, this guy's, you know, sucks, or this individual, she doesn't know what she's talking about. You know what, though? At least we had a spot where we could watch everything. And I'm not saying that I got great ideas from the on-air handicappers, but occasionally they do come up with some insight that makes you sit and think, or they've spoken to an owner or a trainer or a jockey about a certain race coming up, and that person has basically given away what their strategy is going to be or what to expect, you know, pre-race. And then as a handicapper or as an owner, you can make a decision accordingly as to how you want to utilize that information. Now there's not even going to be that option out there. And I think that you know, watching something in the background with no audio on it is fine, and it'll be that way for the next year and a half with regard to the racing channel. But you know, you at least need to have something up there and available and easily accessible for people to be able to digest and enjoy.
Yeah, when I think of like the behind the scenes content too, like there's a great video posted on social of Andy being Cone in the stall with Renegade before the Arkansas Derby, and she's just sitting with him and like talking all about him, and he's basically like puts his head in her lap, and it's just like that kind of stuff. Like that is so valuable, I think, even more than the handicapping insight, because it makes the horses seem so accessible, and it brings you into that relationship between the human and the horse. And I think that that's part of what we're selling to people. It's not just the betting. It's like how special that connection is with the animal, and that if you love animals or you love horses, like this could be something that you could really get into. And, you know, they do stuff like that on Fox too. And I hope they do even more, but it's like, it's not just the handicappers as much as, you know, they are valuable. It's that behind the scenes footage. And it only comes from a group of people who are 100% all in on racing and are dedicated to growing the sport and to letting people be behind that velvet rope. So it's like the idea that just anybody could come in and fill this role. Like, no, this was a special group of people, and, you know, a family, like you said, where it's a major loss. And even if they, you know, hopefully everybody does get picked up by, you know, some other outlet, but it's a different thing than when you have it all in one house and you have that one team all pushing towards the same goal, as opposed to being a show on a larger network where you're always fighting for ratings and, you know, eyeballs and all that stuff. So yeah, certainly not great news. I'm curious. I would love to have somebody from Naira or Fox, maybe you can get Mike Mulvihill on or something in the near future to talk about kind of what the plan is going forward to fill that role, because it's going to be a major hole, and it's not something that we can just let go. Real Talk is sponsored by Fasig-Tipton. Shout out to Fasig-Tipton. The 2026 March digital sale closed last week with gross sales of over $4.4 million for 142 horses sold. The topper was Maximum Bourbon, who's a multiple winner by Maximum Security, who sold for $400,000 to Agave Racing Stable, has 490 plus buyers in his campaign just this year to date, including a career best 103, finishing second in Allowance Company at Fairgrounds on March 13th. He's got over 125,000 or near 125,000 in earnings. It's just a great way this time of year, you don't have to go to the sales necessarily, the physical sales. If you want to get a turnkey horse, a horse that's already in training, has already run some good races, is fit, is race ready, the digital sales are the place to go. And there's one every month, as I've mentioned, at Fasig. You can go to digital.fasig-tipton.com to learn more. The April digital sale is coming up April 16th through the 21st. Entries close April 8th. So definitely get involved either on the buying or the selling side or both at that sale. Then the May digital sale is May 7th through the 12th, and that leads up to the Mid-Atlantic May 2-year-olds in training sale. Can't wait for that one in Timonium. The Undertax show, the Gallop only Undertax show, will be May 12th through the 14th. Shout out to Fasig for being on the forefront of moving to more gallops and less fast breezes, or fewer fast breezes on the sales grounds. As we always mention, they're the innovator when it comes to sales companies, and they'll continue to do so. So learn more, check them out. You can see the catalogs at Fasig-Tipton.com. So we're so thrilled to bring this next guest to the Rail Talk studio. I can't believe we haven't had her on before. She is the excellent director of communications at Keeneland, Gabby Gaudet. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's a busy season. I'm just happy to be on with you guys today.
Yeah, we appreciate you making time for us this week. Obviously, we are a couple days away from the opening of Keeneland, and just kind of wanted to get your overview on the new role, because I believe you took over this role last July. We missed seeing you on TV, but no, you're obviously super qualified, enthusiastic about this job. Has it been, taking a step back, maybe from the limelight, but also working for a company that does racing right?
Yeah, so I actually started in late September, and that's important because I thought day one, tackling the September sale could be a big ask, and I just kind of wanted to shadow and observe last September sale, and then I came on board officially in late September ahead of the fall meet. And it was a whirlwind, to say the least. So I have one race meet under the belt. We're going to get ready for the second one as well, the spring meet. And I think I had a level of expectations going in, and, it's all changed over the course of the past couple of months, and I think for the better. I've had a long relationship with Keeneland, obviously, with my role with FanDuel and being on site for the past several years, but just getting to understand the inner workings of the organization and all the people that are within it has been truly eye-opening and inspiring and motivating. And it's been great. Every day is different. Every day is challenging in its own ways. I didn't know how I would fare, to be honest with you, staying in one place over the winter, because I historically have either gone to the fairgrounds or Gulfstream since I can remember. And it was a cold winter. It was a very cold winter, but it was very fulfilling. And it's been great so far.
And Gabby, you mentioned changes and updates within Keeneland. What should some of the racing population expect to see that's a little different for this spring meet than it has been the past previous meets?
Well, when you drive up, you'll definitely see some changes, especially when you're entering the racetrack. Keeneland went into this big project of the new paddock building, and it was unveiled in two phases. The first phase essentially was last fall with the new paddock building, the exterior portion of it, the new east entrance, the new saddling stalls, the new stakes winner circle. And now the second phase is we are ready to rock and roll with the interior portions of it. 5 new dining spaces. There's a new rooftop bar, new rooftop dining experience, which I think is excellent. And what's really cool about the new paddock building as well, and I've walked through it plenty of times now, each room has so much detail, and you uncover those details every time you re-enter those rooms, and they each have unique experiences. And I think that was part of the process of building those rooms. Is 1936. It's a lounge environment. You get to see the jockeys. You get to go out to the paddock and see the horses. And as you work up, there's different experiences, even the rooftop bar. I mean, you can see, it feels like all of the bluegrass up there. So it's really cool from that standpoint to be able to have the fans come in and see how they interact with those new spaces.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's looking forward to it. You know, it's such a beautiful place to begin with. It's hard to believe that you could step it up, but I know they're always looking to improve. You know, I just wanted to ask you about, you know, Keeneland as a whole, because, you know, I was at Oaklawn over the weekend for the fantasy, and I think it's like it's a binary thing where some companies it's just racing as an afterthought, and some companies racing is the central product, and it's everything that they devote themselves to. And I think of Oaklawn like that. I think of Keeneland like that. You know, have you ever? What has it been like for you? Because you obviously have a long connection with Keeneland, but what has it been like for you to like be so immersed in it? How is that structured? Like, does that come from the top down? Like, what is the hiring process like to get people involved that are passionate about racing? It's really something that I think must permeate through the whole company. But what have you seen from the inside?
It does. It permeates through the whole company. And I can speak for myself in that when we're thinking about racing, equine safety, customers, you know, fan experience, everything, there are a lot of conversations, and it all comes back to what is best for the industry. And it is incredibly refreshing to be in those rooms and be involved in those conversations, because with my background, you know, I grew up essentially in the barn. My parents bred, raced. It is so, at the end of the day, I really want to see racing succeed. And it's really nice to see that being echoed in all of the meetings and the conversations that I'm having internally.
Yep. And I think that Joe, that also spills over onto the sales side as well. You know, one of the reasons why we had our reduction with Keeneland was, you know, because of the promotional part of what they did and what they gave us. And Gabby, that was the central theme in our conversations with Tony and Cormac and the rest of the team was, how are we going to take care of the customer? And you guys brought that up time and time again, and brought to the table a lot of marketing ideas, and it ended up, you know, impressing us enough that we sold Tiffany Case with you guys. When you get a project like that, what is that like? Whether it's a huge reduction or a dispersal, or, you know, a one-off like the dam of a Eclipse champion?
It's a unique approach. It really is. We kind of see who the client is, what their priorities are, what is the best approach for this particular client, and then we build out scope from there. That's really the process. Is we have the talent and the resources to kind of individualize the approach. And I think the customer, the client, can also sense that and feel it. Yeah, I can't say that it's kind of blanket coverage, and we're developing that plan all the time, whether it's in marketing, whether it's, you know, in the video space. We kind of see how things go, and we set a new benchmark, and then we continue to try to build off of that and continue to develop plans kind of moving forward. But yeah, it's definitely an individualized approach. And I can speak to this. I even told you this, Jon. When we saw your horses go through the ring, including Tiffany Case, you really feel invested in it. And I could see that from a lot of the marketing team here and the communications team, is that your success is our success. We're just so happy to see it happen.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, you feel that on the racing side as well, when you're in a big race, or, you know, you're in the winner's circle, or, you know, booking accommodations, whatever it is at Keeneland. It really is. They feel like they're a part of you and your success. I want to ask a little bit about FanDuel. Like, I'm not expecting you to spill the tea entirely, but obviously we were all pretty saddened to see the news that FanDuel is shutting down. You're an industry vet. You're a vet of TV and have obviously worked there for many years. What was your gut reaction to that, and kind of where we go from here when it comes to televising racing?
It's been a hard weekend, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. It's been a weekend of reflection. It's been a weekend of reaching out to some of my former colleagues, who I don't even consider colleagues or friends. I consider most of them family members. And you have to think about it, all the miles that we have logged. And when you travel with a core group of people, you really start to have shared experiences and shared memories. And For example, I don't know if you guys saw, but Anna James, she's a camera woman who has worked for FanDuel TV for a very long time, over 20 years. And I have so many memories with her from being, I don't know, 6 months pregnant and covering Royal Ascot to going to Colonial Downs and covering the races, to her actually filming our wedding. That just really shows you kind of the depth of the relationships that we all have there. And that's people behind the scenes. That's people in front of the camera. I can't even begin to list all of the people that are over there. And my heart really goes out to them. And, I've just been reaching out to them and kind of reminiscing. In terms of the future, it's, if you zoom out and you look at television from a broader standpoint, it is a changing landscape. Linear television is a changing landscape. How we consume TV, how we consume live sports is continually changing. And I think there's a lot of conversations to be had. Keeneland is going to be part of those conversations as well. We definitely will be playing an active role in trying to figure out the future of it. But I think we're all just kind of processing the news and figuring out, what do we do next?
And with regard to, you mentioned family and you log the hours and everything like that. Do you foresee that there's going to be something to fill this void, to fill the vacuum that FanDuel leaving?
I don't know. I really don't. Like I said, I am just kind of processing it all. And right now, my priority is really just kind of reaching out to the people that are affected and figuring out, making sure that they're okay, that their families are okay, that they know, they have options and they can reach out to certain people. I wish I had the answer, John. I really do. Sure. But unfortunately, we're just kind of all thinking and trying to figure out what that next step is and how to fill that void, because it's critically important. I've always thought, when we go out to dinner and we go to whatever restaurant and the TV is on in the bar and you see people sitting at the bar and watching racing, we can't miss out on those opportunities, because that is creating visibility for the sport. And, again, going back to the broader landscape of linear television and streaming, racing's great, but we have two very different audiences. We have this kind of younger generation who has a completely different experience in how they consume sports and TV. And then our core group, which we cannot lose. They're vitally important. And we need to make sure that they have the accessibility to also see racing 24/7. So, it's a huge issue. It's a huge void. And I'm sure, hopefully, we can figure something out in the next, several weeks.
Well, let's talk about races that are going to be on, and that's the Breeders' Cup this year, which is going to be hosted by Keeneland. What things can you tell the audience that they should expect that may be new and exciting?
We're just looking forward to it. We are in the planning process right now. We actually started in the beginning of the year, and the Breeders' Cup anywhere is great. It's exceptional. We're, looking forward to it each and every single year. But I think it really is special when it's in Lexington, and the economic impact that has for the city of Lexington, especially when you think about the fall with the September sale, with the October race meet, with the Breeders' Cup, with the November sale. It's people are here and they are here to stay, which is very important. And, I think everything, we're just kind of planning, and I can assure you that it's going to be a spectacle and very exciting here for the fall.
Yeah. Well, and on the TV and broadcasting side, I still remember Keeneland being the first company and first track to broadcast HD on streaming HD of the races. And that was like such a novel thing at the time. And, it's one of the things I appreciate about Keeneland is, like, unlike so many other companies, like they're not pressed about their signal going out to different places. Like, they want exposure for the races and for the sport. And that's why I would love to see them and you guys, be part of the solution for the future on the TV front, because you do such a great job of it. But last question for me, Gabby. I mentioned that we missed seeing you on the TV, and especially your handicapping at Keeneland, because you know it inside and out. Ask you to put on your handicapper hat for this one. There we go. All right, I don't want to mess up the
You don't mess up the deal.
recently pressed hair. But your
Emphasis on newly pressed hair.
Gabby put herself into hair and makeup for this show, and that's where we're eternally grateful for that. But if say I'm a newbie at Keeneland, is like my first time being there and betting on the races, what are some of like your tried and true angles, whether it's like how the track plays or like certain sires you look for in 2-year-old races or certain trainers? What are like a couple of things that you would suggest to me if I'm looking to make money at Keeneland?
Okay, so a couple of things. I was actually out on the backside a couple days ago, and I chatted with Wesley Ward. Always want to get the scoop from Wesley, especially when it comes to his 2-year-olds. And he specifically brought up Wagley, who was actually entered in the first race on opening day. She's highly regarded. She is highly regarded in his barn. So maybe something to keep in mind, because it's really hard to glean any type of information when it comes to those 2-year-olds, other than their pedigree and maybe their work tab. In terms of, 2-turn dirt races, a mile and a 16th, I always think you want to think about speed. Because of that short stretch first wire, you always want to have a horse that could be tactically positioned. That's something I always consider. And then I love the $3 Turf Pick 3 if I'm putting my wagering cap on, because it's just such a good bet and the payoffs are so great. And I lean more turf centric. I love turf racing. I think there's so many options. You can really do a lot of trip handicapping as well when you go back and you watch the replays, and there's a lot of nuance to handicapping those races. You get big field sizes, more opportunity, in my opinion. So that is kind of my favorite thing at Keeneland when I look at the turf racing and the big field sizes and the Turf Pick 3. I think is great. But outside of that, really looking forward to the Ashland and the Bluegrass as we quickly approach the first Saturday of May, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a great time. Great time to be a racing fan and a participant. And Gabby Gaudet, great at whatever she does in the business. We're really happy for you and your new role at Keeneland. And, just keep up the great work and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much for having me on, guys.
Rail Talk is sponsored by TaylorMade. When you're with them, your family, whether it's in the breeding shed, whether it's raising horses to go to the sale, whether it's on racetrack partnerships, or whether it's the Stallion barn. And, this could be the Not This Time hour every single week if we wanted it to be. We try to diversify because TaylorMade does do so many things so well and has a lot of other really interesting stallions on that roster. But Jon had an interesting tidbit on Not This Time, who obviously is the sire of Magnitude, winner of the Dubai World Cup over the weekend, and just kind of the crosses that Not This Time works with, which are pretty much all of them, right, Jon?
Yeah, Joe, normally you look at a proven stallion and you say, okay, I know that, Gun Runner works really well with Tappet. And there are certain lines that, Bernardini mares did very well with Medaglia d'Oro. But you look at Not This Time's 12 different grade 1 winners, and they are from 12 different broodmare sires, Joe. That to me is like, so basically any good, female line that you have works well with Not This Time.
Yeah, for sure. And he uplifts any mare that he gets. And, as I mentioned before, as a handicapper, there's a horse in the race. I don't care if it's 30-1. I don't care if he's his workouts can't outrun a goat. If he's by Not This Time, when those gates open, chances are he'll be able to run. And so shout out to the TaylorMade team. You can learn more at TaylorMadeFarm.com about Not This Time and the rest of the stallions and all the other services they provide. They're the best in the business because they love it inside and out, and they've been doing this for decades. The passion and the ability to take care of every client, every horse, as if they are their personal client, friend, horse, whatever it is. That's why they've been doing this and doing it so well for so long. Welcome to the Mage Rage supplemental draft for our Derby contest, sponsored as always by our friends at Airdrie Stud and Mage. First yearlings go through the ring later this year. First 2-year-olds through the ring next spring. Can't wait to see that Derby winner's progeny on the track. I'm joined by our friends from all across the globe. Many technical difficulties that we powered through. Jon Green, of course. Lauren Carlisle, Andrew Stewart, and Samantha Perry. Welcome, friends.
Good morning.
Hey.
Good afternoon.
Gang's all back. Yeah, I forgot it's like 7 a.m. where Andrew is. So appreciate you having your coffee or whatever else Kiwis drink to get you up for this. So here's how it's going to work. We each have 6 horses on our team right now. Sam is kicking our ass at the moment. So we're going to sabotage her team so the rest of us have a little bit of chance to get involved. Current standings, and I'll throw them up on the screen right now. Sam is in first with 424. Andrew is in second. Andrew's in second with 251. Jon is in third with 205. Lauren passed me and is in fourth with 192, and I am in last at 183. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop 2 horses per team, and then we can all pick 2 new horses, either from the pool of horses that were dropped or from the free agency, waiver wire, etc. And we're going to go in reverse order of standing. So would you look at that? I have the first pick. This is my only shot to get back in it. So this is a very important pick for me. But I'm first going to go through the horses that were dropped. Jon is cutting loose Blackout Time, and as Lauren would say, Paladin. Lauren is getting rid of Jackson Hole and Easterly. Sam had her Sophie's choice of who to get rid of because everyone's such a star. Litmus Test and Chief Wallaby are now available for pickup. My decision was way easier. 2 injured horses, Plutarch and Canaletto, and Andrew is cutting loose El Harim and Grittiness. So any of those horses could be picked, or we can go from the free agency pool. I'm going first, and I am very grateful that Sam cut loose Chief Wallaby. That's going to be my pick. Lightly raced horse, of course. Maybe he won't go in the Derby. Maybe Sam, being an insider, knows something I don't. But I'm going to pick up Chief Wallaby and the current points that he has. Lauren, go ahead.
The Puma.
Yeah, that was the one that I was waffling about.
God
because
damn it.
He's a nice horse. So, all right. Lauren takes Chief Wallaby. That leaves Jon with
No, I did not take Chief Wallaby.
Sorry, I took Chief Wallaby. I know. It's hard for me to get into people. It's great.
Words are tough.
I took Chief Wallaby. You took the Puma. I was hoping I could get both. But anyway, go ahead, Jon.
All right. Despite the fact that I don't know if this horse has a silent E at the end of its name or not, I'm going to go with Potente.
Potente.
Running in the Santa Anita Derby this weekend.
All right. Speaking of derbies, Andrew, who you got?
I'm going Japanese horse, Wonder Dean, who actually won the UAE Derby.
Nice. Wonder Dean to Andrew's team. Sam, who you got?
I will go up against a Mr. Jon Green in the Santa Anita Derby with Cherokee Nation.
Nice.
Yep.
Good pick.
Very nice,
Coming off
Sam.
of the 100 buyer. All right. This is, again, like a tough one for me because I'm like, my team it needs a lot of points very quickly, and I don't know that there's anybody that's running this weekend that's a guarantee to get some points. So instead, I'm going to be a homer and take Reagan's Honor in the Bluegrass. Doesn't currently have any points, but he's got the West Point colors, and he almost set a track record last time at Fairgrounds. So I'm hoping he's up for the step up in class. I got Reagan's Honor. Lauren, who do you want for your second pick?
I'm going to pick up Litmus Test.
Very good.
Right.
Litmus Test. And she'll get the points that he's earned so far on her team. Jon, rather. Go ahead.
All right. I'm going to go with a horse that has qualified for the Derby based on points, but I'm not really sure he's got much of a chance because I bashed him so much after winning at Turfway. Full effort.
He's reduced to picking a horse from the Jeff Ruby Stakes that he hates so much. I love it.
That shows you just how much I want to win this goddamn contest.
Yes, and like how desperate we become at the second round of the supplemental draft. Okay, Andrew, who's your second supplemental
I'm following John's lead. A horse I don't think can win, but has got a few points. The Sunland Derby winner, Pavlovian.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, and he also ran second in the Louisiana Derby.
Yep.
Super game effort. All right, Sam, take us home. Who's going to complete your team?
All right, I'm going to go with the undefeated Maxfield colt from Japan, Dannon Bourbon.
Nice. Yeah.
Well played. I think has an automatic berth into the Derby,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It does.
All right. Let's recap. I'm not going to do the math right now, but we'll put up the updated standings. I went with Chief Wallaby. Lauren took the Puma. John, in his Anglo-Saxon accent, said Patenti. After that is Andrew with Wonder Dean. And then Sam took Cherokee Nation, who may go favorite in the Santa Anita Derby this weekend. And then for the second round, I took Reagan's Honor. Lauren took Litmus Test. John took Full Effort. Andrew took Pavlovian. And Samantha had Dannon Bourbon. So that was quick. It took about 20 minutes to prep for this and about 3 minutes to record. So appreciate you all persevering.
And Joe, don't forget that the horses that we've dropped their points, and the horses that we've selected, we've now earned their points. So that's
exactly why I said I'm not doing the math right now.
The mathing of it is going to be very difficult, except that we all know that Sam's still in first place, even after this draft.
Do we? I don't know. Stay tuned to find out.
They're ahead of us by a pole right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't see her.
I had a what's it called? Dwelt at start to start off this competition, though.
Yes, but as always, came charging, and Sam defending her title from last year's contest. All right, so excited and ready for the last round of preps coming this weekend, the Bluegrass and the Wood and the Santa Anita. Plenty of action for our teams all across the board. Thank you guys for making the time to do the supplemental draft. Love y'all.
Thank you.
All right, so that's going to do it for episode 128 of Rail Talk. Thank you to my co-pilot, Jon Green. As always, best of luck to you guys this weekend in the Ashland. Thank you to our guest pickers in the supplemental Mage Rage draft, Samantha Perry, Lauren Carlisle, and Andrew Stewart. Congrats to us for 30,000 plus subscribers. If you haven't yet, hit that button on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Join the family. We appreciate every single one of you for boosting us and supporting us this whole time, and we're going to keep on climbing. Thank you to our beloved producer, Patty Wolf, and our associate producers, apparent distant cousin to Madonna, Julia Agresta, and Nathan Wilkinson. Although, like the singing chops make sense now, so we appreciate you guys as well. Thank you to the listeners and the viewers for tuning in, and we'll see you next week back here on Rail Talk.